Oh, just in case.
Okay, well, hello everyone. Welcome to Wine Women and Words. Oh, it's just like riding a bike. I am Michelle, and with me, of course, is Diana. And
Hello.
we are back after, if you follow the podcast, we took a extended break for about a year, but we're getting the show back on the road, as they say. And we have author Mansi Shah with us, and we are going to be talking about saving face. Thank you so much for making some time for us and being the first guest back on the show.
Thank you so much, Michelle and Diana, for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, you go. Oh,
Oh, we gotta get your rhythm back, don't we? I know this is the one thing that nobody says when you're coming back. It's like you gotta get your rhythm back, gotta get that flow back going.
I know you need like the hands, like you talk, I talk, you talk, I talk.
We'll get it at some point.
We will. But for those who aren't familiar yet with Saving Face, can you give us an overview of what the story is about?
Yeah, absolutely. So it is a rags to riches story about an orphan from Singapore who steals her wealthy classmate's identity and then moves to America and starts her own Ayurvedic skincare line. And so her business starts doing really well. She gets nominated for this global entrepreneurship award that's going to put the media spotlight on her. And so now she is worried about covering up her tracks now that there's all this tension. And so she ends up having to go back to Singapore to find out who is trying to expose her and threaten to topple the house of cards on which she has built her entire life.
I just started reading it and I'm really enjoying it. But before we were talking, actually recording on the podcast, you and I were talking about travel because Muncie and I are uh big travel enthusiasts.
Yes.
We're always traveling somewhere. I Over the weekend I was talking to my husband about your Antarctica trip, and I'm like, this is how she did it, and this is what we're going to do. This is
Yes.
moving up in our bucket list of things that we're going to do that's going to happen. And he was like, okay, all right, because he's also
Yeah.
really into travel as well. And I want to talk about your travels to Singapore and how it shaped this book.
Yeah, absolutely. So this book was kind of an accident. So as you said, I do travel a lot and I incorporate that into my novels. Each of my novels has been set in a different country thus far. And I've been to over 70 countries and all seven continents. So there's a lot more, books left of various places I can set them. But so I was thinking I would write a book that took place in Sri Lanka. And I flew Singapore Airlines, so I spent a few days in Singapore on my way over. I've got relatives there and friends there, and I've been before. But I was having dinner with a friend at this place called Chimes. If anyone has been to Singapore, you'll probably know it. It's a very trendy restaurant bar area that's right next to the Raffles Hotel. And so I had been there before, but I didn't really know the history of that place. So my friend had taken me around the corner from the restaurant to this, placard that explained the Gate of Hope. And so I was reading that, and the Gate of Hope is a real place. It's basically where there were French Catholic sisters, the Convent of the Holy Infant Jesus, and they were there for about 150 years. And the Gate of Hope is where a lot of people abandoned baby girls. Just culturally, girls were disfavored compared to boys. And so thousands and thousands of baby girls were abandoned at this gate for various reasons. And so I was just reading that, so the gate is still there, and it's got its little historical marker. And so I don't know, it just kind of broke my heart to think of all the baby girls who were abandoned there. And so I am horrible with jet lag despite all the travels. I was up all night. And I don't know, while I was standing there staring at the Gate of Hope, Monica's story kind of came to me fully formed. Like it was the most like I think it's that thing that other writers or creatives talk about, that like bolt of lightning thing, but like I envisioned an orphan from the Gate of Hope who grew up, stole someone's identity, and made something of herself to try to elevate her station in life. And I pictured this award. I pictured a journalist trying to, expose her. Like I pictured all of that. And then I didn't really think much of it because I was going to go write a book in Sri Lanka. That's where I was spending more than 2 weeks in Sri Lanka because that was the main event. And so that night I was Googling, I'm like, oh, I'm sure people have written about this. It's such an iconic place in the heart of Singapore. And no one had. Like there was not even that much in terms of the history of the actual place. And then I had this other crazy tie to it. I used to be an entertainment lawyer and I worked at Warner Brothers, and Warner Brothers produced Crazy Rich Asians. And there's this very iconic scene in that film where Araminta's having her wedding and they flood the church with water. And so that church is actually the church that I'm writing about in my
Oh,
book. So
cool.
that Warner actually filmed there. um, so now it's obviously an event space, and then it's not a church. You can now fill it with water and have Hollywood studios film there. But yeah, so it was just one of those things. So then I was going on a month-long trip. This was like day one of this month-long
Mhm.
trip, just my Singapore layover. And I was in Sri Lanka, and there were interesting things that came about. And then I was in the Maldives, and this story just kept coming back to me. I was like, I think I found my story on day one, and it just felt like I had to tell it.
Mhm. I love that. I love that history that you
Yeah,
were able to bring into it because it's always that little bit history that we don't
yeah,
realize. That's where I think all the best stories are.
yeah,
And I think it's those little moments of history that I think are so interesting, like those little places that like, oh my gosh, did you know like this happened here? And it's
yeah,
like those, I love the historical markers and the plaques
yeah,
whenever I'm traveling, which is not as much as either of you, but and it's much more local. But I think they're just so cool to, the history nerd in me comes out. That's
yeah.
like they stood right here. This is where it happened.
Right.
And
So
I was
that's
thinking about Crazy Rich Asians as well
Yes.
when with Singapore and everything. So it's like they made me want to go there, but at the
Yeah.
same time, I was like, oh my God, it's so nice there, and I'm so clumsy. I'm going to break things.
Yeah. Well, and that was part of I wanted to show another side of Singapore because I feel like the Crazy Rich Asians is a super popular film. And all of Kevin Kwan's books have been super popular, which is great, but they show one side of Singapore. And so for me, for my relatives who live there, they aren't living in, palatial estates guarded by Sikh military. Like they're living in the sort of normal part of Singapore. And that's where my cousin's growing up and things like that. And so I really just wanted to highlight one, the fact that Singapore has a massive Indian population, which you wouldn't know from those other stories or media outlets. And also just that there is another side to Singapore, which is where this is quite the opposite of she's a penniless orphan. So
Mhm.
like we've gone like to the other extreme, but I just thought the history of this place was so fascinating, and I just wanted to kind of represent this other side of Singapore because there's
Mhm.
not a ton of media about Singapore, and it is kind of one dimensional thus far.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely is. And then the other research that you did for your book I want to talk about for a moment is how much research you had to do into skincare
Oh yeah.
since
Yeah.
since it's such a big part of the book.
Yeah, no, I had to. So I feel like there are some really good things that come out of social media. And one of them was because I was researching the Ayurvedic there are Ayurvedic skincare companies that sorry, I'm just gonna try to move this of light. But yeah, so there are these Ayurvedic skincare companies, and so I haven't had a ton of experience with them. I've had some experience with Ayurveda in general for just various health and wellness things, but I got connected with the founder of Skincare, who launched this Ayurvedic line. She lives in Seattle, I think. Launched this Ayurvedic line maybe 6 or 7 years ago. And so I learned so much about that from her. And she is just a fascinating human and individual. So that was just a great new connection to make. But I had just kind of posted about these different brands that I had Googled and come up with, and she's that person who reached out and said, how can I help you? And so
Oh, that's so great.
and so from there, this amazing friendship developed. But I'm Diana knows this about me, that I'm more of a natural skin proponent. Like I don't, not heavy makeup person or anything like that. And so, like I want to make sure whatever the messaging is in anything I'm writing is that, generally speaking, like women are beautiful and fine the way they are. And so I knew it was going to be skincare and not makeup per se. But yeah, it was just really interesting to learn about, like, some of the stuff in the book is stuff that I grew up with. But a lot of it was just learned as I got to know Anisha, the founder of which was great.
Now, you mentioned before that, the story just came to you,
Yeah,
which I think so many writers would just are just waiting to have that
yeah,
experience,
yeah.
because I feel like so many times you have the kernel
Yes.
of the idea, but then you have to really work to kind of flesh it all out.
Yeah.
What While you were crafting or writing Mira, and you already you already knew her off the bat because she just came
Yeah.
to you fully formed. Was there something that took you by surprise while you were writing and getting to know her, even though she already like came to you?
Yeah, so I had the journalist character in my mind. I knew Naira. I didn't know her by name at that point, but I knew there was going to be a journalist who was like up and coming and who wanted to restart her career after some sort of, something had derailed it a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I had to learn, like, I don't have the journalism background that you have, Michelle. So I feel like a lot of, again, a lot of that was just um, trying to figure out what the mind of a journalist would be. Um, but I knew I wanted, again, it's like I try to get as many different types of representation in as I can. Like I knew I wanted her to have a Sikh background and, just kind of play with, some of the other issues that kind of go along with her character and kind of throw in the cultural aspect as well. But yeah, I feel like there's that relationship between them, I just thought was so interesting. Like that was the first thing that came to me was that relationship between her and the reporter and how she was going to navigate that.
And I actually, as you were answering, I realized I got the characters' names mixed up. I so
Okay.
I I meant Ami. But when I asked that question, so
Okay.
I apologize. As you're
Oh,
answering, I was like, "Oh, I didn't mean the journalist."
okay. So did you mean the real Emmy or Monica as Emmy?
Monica's Ami.
Okay. Um,
I'm
so
just a hot mess tonight. Oh my
no,
gosh.
no. So okay, so remind me, what was the question about Monica?
I feel like this is a very fitting first episode
Yeah,
back.
yeah,
I feel like
yeah.
this is really on brand for us. Um, just since you were discussing how everything like came to you while you
Oh yeah,
were
yeah.
standing there and reading about the history of the Gate of Hope, what did Monica surprise you while you were writing, since you already knew her in that moment?
Um,
That's what I meant to ask. Let's pretend that I asked that
okay,
to start with.
that's a great question.
Thank you.
Um, yeah, it's weird for this book just because none of my other books have come to me this way. They've all been a slog. But for this one, I really saw so many dimensions of her personality. Like I knew that someone harboring a secret that big had to live in an isolated way. And for me, that was a stretch because for me, my connections are the most important thing in my life at this stage.
Mhm.
And it was heartbreaking for me to think that someone wouldn't be able to have that because they'd made these other decisions as to their life and their values and their priorities. And so for her, she had basically, because of the way she had grown up, she thought money, class, affluence was going to solve all of her problems. And she had sort of convinced herself of that. And she had to have like the tunnel vision to end up living the way that she did. And so I think all of that for me was there from the beginning because I just, it's such a weird thing. It sounds like very woo to try when I talk about this book, whereas the other books are a little more straightforward. Um, but for this one, it just sort of came that way where it had to be. She had to have that personality. She had to
Mhm.
make those decisions. I think writing complex, nuanced, morally gray characters are a lot more fun to both write and read. So I knew it was going to be someone where, she does some things that are not necessarily great, but the hope is it's written in a way that you still kind of want to root for her. You understand why she did them, or you kind of think about what you would have done in her shoes. So I kind of knew it had to be straddling that line throughout.
Mhm. And it's really, you say morally gray characters, and I think right now the romantasy or the fantasy genres really have like a lock on the term morally gray characters, but it's really um it's a really interesting reminder that morally gray characters, at least for me, just because that kind of like flipped a switch for me when you said that morally gray characters are across all genres.
Yeah.
They
Well,
they don't just have to be in. I'm way down a romantasy rabbit hole right now. So
yeah,
sometimes it's nice to come up for air and experience different genres.
yeah,
Well, also you consider the fact that they have that cliched advice, write what you know.
right.
And I feel that people mistake that advice, that write what you know. So if you were a lawyer, say you should be writing about the law. No, you're a writer, you should be able to know people.
Right.
And you we're all none of us are inherently good or bad.
Yeah.
We all have this tendency to be morally gray based on our decisions.
Yeah. 100%. No, I think yeah, I was a psychology major before I was a lawyer and then ultimately a writer. So yeah, all people are inherently flawed on certain levels, and I think that's what makes this all interesting. It's what makes us human. And so when I'm reading something and the character's kind of one note, it's like I don't really know people in my life that are one note. Like everyone, makes mistakes, has questionable choices, priorities are different. Something one person may value, I may
Mhm.
not, and vice versa. And so I think that's where the sweet stuff is.
Mhm.
And so how do you create those layers when you're writing for your characters? How do you kind of make them morally gray and show the reader versus saying she is a morally gray character?
Yeah, so this one, the structure of this one changed a bit during the dev edits. So when I initially wrote this book, I was trying to make it so that the reader wasn't aware until later that she had taken someone's identity. But then we added, which I think makes it better, a prologue, which kind of answers that question quite early. um, and you have to change the rest of the book, which
It's fine.
yeah, which no longer matches the first like 10 pages. And so for this one, so I thought I was being super clever in the beginning, thinking, oh, it'll be an aha moment for the reader when they realize what has happened. But now they're realizing like in the first few pages. um, and so then it was going back in and editing and revising to account for the fact that the reader knows this
Mhm.
from the very beginning. And so they're starting off now, maybe, because they don't really know her yet. So they're
Mhm.
starting off thinking she's done something bad. And so I think in the rewrite, there was more of a need to make her empathetic, to make her, like still someone you want to root for, even with the morally gray sort of
Mhm.
background that the reader is fed in the beginning. And so I think it is just there's, it's a lot of her thought process. I mean, the thing with a novel versus screenplay, right, is like there's all the interiority that because there's not a visual medium, so that's all there in the words. And so I think it is just trying to, I had to be really careful about that because I knew there was a risk that people would just not like her off the bat and would therefore not be able to get into the story. So I really tried to show her moments of humanity, whether it's through like, a little anecdote from when she was at business school or whatever it is, like just something to show why she did what she did, and hopefully offer that as an explanation that people could be okay with.
I think one of the key things when it comes to a morally gray character, even a villain, is that there has to be something that a reader can identify with, something that one little thing, whether it's not necessarily the whole personality, but one aspect of the personality, where it's like, okay, I can relate to this.
Yeah.
And, it's like the saying, therefore the grace of God go I.
Yeah.
I could have made these
Right.
decisions
Right.
based on this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, right, wrong, or otherwise, whatever it says about me, I think had I been in Monica's position, I probably would have done the same thing.
Hmm.
And likely for similar reasons. I don't fault her for it. I think we live in a world that is imperfect. And we live in a world where privileges are not doled out equitably at birth, and some people start at a different place. And I mean, the story is really about the lengths someone would go to try to change that, change the
Hmm.
circumstances into which they were born, and what the ramifications of that are.
Hmm.
And that segued beautifully into one of our questions, which what is the discussion? I mean, Diana literally has the question typed. One of the themes of the book is, are we locked into the circumstances into which we are born?
Right.
So,
Wait for it.
thank you for
Yeah.
thank you for bringing that up so naturally,
Yes.
and then we
Yeah.
could just continue into that
Sure.
discussion.
Yes.
It's a, uh, I sometimes I'll like spiral out on, the cause and effect. Like, oh, if I had arrived, 30 seconds later, I would have caught the red light and then might have been here. And,
Yeah.
kind of those final destination fate moment things.
Yes. Yeah.
But that, you know, which now that I'm talking may not apply to this situation, but it really is such a fascinating conversation of, are you here because this is what you were born into, or are you here because this is what you have worked up to, or
Right.
out to, into, whatever
Yeah.
the correct proposition is.
Right. Yeah. Like the privilege versus merit discussion.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, I'll just let you talk for me.
No, 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 no. No, and I mean that is a very central theme to this book. It's something that I think about a lot as an immigrant woman who's raised between Canada and North America. Like I've been in the minority for all of my life. Um, I've also lived brief stints in the UK and Australia, but again, not changing the baseline demographic. But yeah, I think it is an interesting thing. Like I feel like I spend a lot of time thinking about what privileges I was born into, compared to someone else. And a lot of because of the career I had prior to being a writer, it was very status based. Like I was a lawyer in Hollywood. So, so entertainment law, like lawyering plus Hollywood, both of those separately are very status based. And then you combine the two and, you're really kind of at the center of that. And it was just interesting to see where, it's like certain things happen because of connections as opposed to merit. And a lot of, so I did not go to business school. I went to grad school in London, but I had a lot of friends who went to London business school. And it was really fascinating to realize, from the outside looking in, like business school is a lot about the connections that you're making. It's not necessarily that you're learning to start or grow a business or do anything like that. It's really about the connections that you're making. And I thought it was fascinating because the friends I met who were in business school, the way they maintain connections for decades is better than any other grad program that I am aware of. Like lawyers are not as good at it, but I feel like in business school in particular, there's some inherent belief that you don't know where anyone is going to end up. And so always maintain ties. And so they really, I like, it's kind of fascinating. Like I've often said, I don't need any more degrees or any more debt to go along with it. But if I could get one, I would get an MBA because those people have the most fun and go on exchange while getting an MBA. MBA students on exchange, like there is no better like a group of people on this planet. But they have fun. They get to know each other. Most of them are still connected like 20, 30, 40 years after business school. But it was like me thinking about the fact that a lot of those connections were maintained because everyone coming in comes in at kind of a similar socioeconomic or educational, it's like they come in somewhat the same because business school is expensive. And there's not, I'm sure there's some scholarships, but for the most part, people I met were doing it, of their own accord. And so I just thought that was, it was just something that felt like kind of essential to this story, that it has to be that she has concocted the right background to make her one of them and not feel othered.
I love that. And I can't wait to get more into the book to read more about that.
Yeah.
So, all right. So now I believe we're at our 30 minutes, give or take, probably give a little bit more. Um, so to wrap it up, what are you reading right now?
Oh my God, I feel like that's always such an, such an interesting so everything digitally, I have to think about it. What am I currently reading? Oh, the Fourth Daughter by Lynn
Oh.
Liao Butler, which just came out also in August. I read it before. I read an early draft of it, but now I'm reading the final.
Ooh, that's one that's on my list.
It's really good. It plays
Yeah, she
it plays with structure in a way that I find awe-inspiring, and I'm gonna,
yeah.
advance my writing chops to try to get to something like that one day.
Ooh, I'll have to check that out. Yeah, I was
Mm.
bummed because I missed your launch party,
Yeah.
and I know she was at the launch party
Yes.
with you
Yes.
because yeah, launching hers, and I was like, oh, that book sounds really good too.
Yes. Yes.
That does sound good. See, it's a very fun question to ask, but it's a
Yeah.
very dangerous question to ask
Yeah.
because
Hmm.
your TBR just,
Oh, it's gonna grow
it's
exponentially.
never gonna end.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I currently have stacks of books. I'm onto 3 stacks of books in my to be read list
Wow.
because the shelf is overflowing of with books, and I just keep
Well,
buying books.
it reemphasizes the fact that reading books and buying books are two completely different hobbies
Yes.
Hmm.
and don't have anything actually to do with one another.
Very
Yes.
true. Very true.
Because I should not be buying books at all for
But I feel like
years.
you should, because you also have a beautiful display of books.
Oh,
Yes.
thank you.
Artistic. So I'm like, that is goals. I'm not gonna ever show my bookshelves. They don't look like that.
I love the idea of doing the rainbow with all the colors,
Yeah.
Hmm.
but I can't separate books by the same author. Like if I'm gonna do that, then the author has to have the same color book cover for everything.
Right.
This is
And
just a select few of the
Yeah.
books that I have. My other bookshelf is a mess. And then
Yeah.
I have more books
The
in the
rainbow,
hallway.
the rainbow's always pretty. It just, but yeah, I would never be able to find anything because I
It's
wouldn't.
not
that
it's not that hard.
too.
It's not that hard. It really isn't that hard.
Okay.
Not
Okay.
that hard at all.
Okay.
I
But I
don't
have
know. I
also
don't know.
separated my classics are downstairs so
Okay.
that I look smart.
Okay.
Okay.
You've been to my house. You saw
It's
the
all
family room there.
strategic shelving.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. So you can use words like afforded.
In
Just to bring it full
everyday
circle. Just to bring it
conversation.
full circle.
Yes. So when people see your classic bookshelves, you will have the respect afforded you by
Yes.
having said collection of classic
Right.
books.
Right.
They're gonna be like, that's why she writes such big words.
Yes. Yes. So she reads these very intellectual books.
I don't know how to make my Zoom stop zooming on my face right now. Very glad this video isn't.
You just zoomed in like you're a supervillain.
It did. I think it's because
Is that
the
because you were
cat
petting
jumped
the
on my
cat?
lap.
Yeah, it was like a Dr. Evil moment because you were petting the cat.
Zoom has decided that this is my moment, and I don't know how to stop that feature.
Okay, I didn't even know that. I've never seen that before. I didn't know that was a feature.
It's super fun. I'm glad that it's doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, the petting of the cat was spot on.
That was like cue the villain music in the
Yes.
background.
Yeah.
I just
And we are back, baby.
I know we're back. It's like we never left.
Yeah.
Well, Mansi, thank you so much for making time for us and letting me stumble my way through questions and just hanging out with us tonight. We've had so much fun chatting with you.
No, this was amazing. You two are delightful. This was so much fun.
Yes. Thank
So,
you for coming
Diana,
and being our first guest on the for the season.
Amazing. I can't wait to see who you have up next.
Yeah. So for those of you who would like to read Saving Face, please go to our link in the show notes to bookshop.org. As always, bookshop.org supports this podcast. It supports your local independent bookstore, and most importantly, it supports our authors who take their time to come here on the podcast.
there we go. You got
Yeah.
it. Have a wonderful rest of your evening and have an amazing vacation.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you both. And Diana, we'll connect in October and debrief
Yes.
the travels.
Yes, yes, we will.
Yes. And Michelle, if you're ever in Southern California, you have to let us know.
Oh, absolutely. You'll
We're gonna
hear
have
the
to,
like
drag you out there.
shrieks of Diana and I reuniting, and then
Okay,
you'll
amazing.
have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.